suppose the one thing that's interesting, there's so much talk generated in this House about something that we don't know is actually what is going to happen yet and what effect it's going to have. And I wonder if we knew what was going to happen, would there be as much chat about it and would there be as much put forward in relation to it? And that's the difficulty. Now, I suppose, in fairness, I do have a bit of sympathy for the government, and it's probably one of the few times and the only times in here that I'll say that I have sympathy for the government. But you are between a rock and a hard place. I mean, how can you prepare and how can you talk about what's going to happen for Brexit when you don't know? And none of us know. So, there's a lot of members here talking about that you should be saying what's preparing for a hard Brexit and putting it out publicly and that there. But in reality, you could do all that and you could announce the plans for a hard Brexit and spend the next 6 weeks or whatever planning it all and planning it out, and it wouldn't happen. And then we'd all be in here then giving out about you haven't spent the money on preparing for the hard Brexit, and it didn't happen, and we didn't need to do all that. So I think you're really, in fairness to you, are between a rock and a hard place in that situation. As what you can't be actually talking about what's going to happen because you don't know what's going to happen. And again, I suppose we can't be talking about it because we might influence in what actually happens as an outcome of the whole situation, and that is difficult, and it's difficult for right across the whole of Irish society. I come from Donegal, as you know, Minister, and very few people talk about Brexit in Donegal, which is, I find interesting, and because maybe it's because in Donegal things will happen and we can do nothing about it anyway, and we don't expect the government to do anything for us. So, and we'll just make most of it and get on with it, whatever happens. But so it's not factoring there. Everybody knows it's going to happen, but everybody knows that they're going to have to live after the day after it happens as well, and it's going to continue on, and that's the reality in the situation. So I mean, we are in a very difficult. How do we actually plan for it, and how do we actually know what's going to happen? And we don't know, and what is going to be put in place. We don't know until it happens, and we have no control over what happens in relation to that. So we have to wait for the Brits to make up their minds and decide what they're going to do. And and really and truly, I think it's from the EU point of view, it's the best situation that they could ever hope to be in, because if the Brits can squirm and squirm and squirm and squirm and squirm and squirm for years, which they have done for years now at this stage, and wrangle with themselves and tie themselves up in knots and that there, because it's only when it comes down to the last hour or the last half hour that the deal is going to be done and that the Brexit is going to happen, and then the EU will actually have to stand up and say this is what we've done and this is what it's going to be. So it suits at the moment to keep the Brits tied up in knots, and that's fair enough in relation to it. But it still leaves us in Ireland as to what we can do. And I think the one thing I suppose we can do is that all businesses in Ireland do have to have an EORI number, regardless of whether it's a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit or any kind of Brexit. After Brexit, if they are exporting into England or importing from England, they have to have an EORI number, and that's what we should be doing at the minute, is making sure that they are registered and that they get that. And I see from the briefing that we had last week or whenever that is happening. That's positive, and that's what we need to do, and that's all we can do at the moment in terms of preparation for it, to make sure that all our businesses have that in place and know what's likely to be involved, regardless. We can't say exactly what the nature of the Brexit is going to be, but that they are actually aware of it, and that's all we can hope for at the minute. So, and I mean, I know I've had dealings with a couple of small businesses in Killybegs who are now getting their EORI numbers, and that's important. And I think all businesses that are exporting need to know that they have to get that. And I think that's the message that we can send out. And maybe the fact that we're having so much debate in here and talking about something that we don't know anything about, but at least that can build that awareness for businesses that they have to register for that itself anyway, and then take it from there as to what form the Brexit takes in the future in relation to that. And so there's not really much more I want to say in relation to it. I mean, I think it's going to go on, it's going to happen. We're in a very difficult situation. It's outside our control. We can only deal with what is handed to us at the time. We have a difficulty over maintaining the integrity of the Good Friday Agreement and of the island of Ireland, and also then maintaining what is necessary for Brexit. And I don't think they're really compatible, but we'll have to find a way around that, and I'm sure we probably will in the end up. But that's all we can do is wait for that to happen and then do it. And that's the reality of the situation. I don't know whether the Brexit will take place and the date that they're talking about, the end of October or whatever, whether there'll be an extension of time or that there, I don't know. Johnson seems to be pushing for it to go ahead, and I think probably from his own point of view in terms of negotiating, that's probably the best point of view for them, to bring it down to the wire and get an actual deal done. But we're just going to have to wait and see what kind of Brexit comes out of it, and then deal with that from that point on. But